Soporu entered Efite village like a moving festival. Her big car was shining like it had been washed by angels, and as it rolled slowly over the village road, dust rose behind it like smoke from a celebration. People stopped whatever they were doing. Women paused their cooking, men dropped their tools, and children abandoned football in the middle of the road. "Hey, see Soporu!" someone shouted. Another person yelled, "This girl has made it, oh!" Hands flew into the air, necks stretched, and smiles were everywhere. Soporu waved left, waved right, and smiled until her cheeks almost hurt. She felt like a village queen on a royal visit, enjoying the love and attention. What she did not know was that this same road which welcomed her with joy and laughter would soon carry fear, tears, and a mystery that would leave the entire village completely speechless. Welcome to Afro Kales TV, your home for rich, exciting, and inspiring stories from around the world. Today's story will touch your heart and keep you hooked till the very end. If you are new here, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any of our amazing stories. Soporu's car rolled to a stop in front of her family home in Efite village, and a cloud of reddish dust settled behind it. The late December sun cast a golden glow on the neat row of simple bungalows along the road. As she stepped out, children playing nearby paused and then erupted in excited shouts. "Auntie Soporu, welcome!" a little boy cheered, waving energetically. Soporu smiled and waved back. She had returned home for Christmas, and the entire village of Efite seemed to come alive with her arrival. Her mother, Ngozi, was already at the front door, grinning from ear to ear. "My daughter, you are home!" Ngozi exclaimed, rushing to embrace her. She wrapped her arms around her mother, inhaling the familiar scent of wood smoke and home cooking. Soporu's father, Namdi, followed with a proud smile. He placed a hand on Soporu's shoulder. "Welcome back, my dear. How was your journey?" he asked warmly. "It was fine, Papa. Long, but I'm just happy to be here," Soporu replied, her voice full of genuine joy. She opened the trunk of her sleek SUV to retrieve the bags of gifts she had brought from the city. Neighbors gathered around curiously. A few women from nearby compounds were already peeking over the low fences, whispering and smiling. As Soporu handed her father a heavy sack of rice and gave her mother a parcel of new clothes and shoes, the neighbors murmured appreciatively. "This our daughter has done well for herself," one elderly man commented, leaning on his walking stick. A plump woman named Mama Nkechi nodded in agreement. "She is not only rich, she has a good heart. See how she is sharing gifts," Mama Nkechi added, loud enough for Soporu to hear. Soporu chuckled softly and greeted them. "Good evening, sir. Good evening, ma." They beamed at the acknowledgement. Inside the house, Soporu noticed little had changed since her last visit. The sitting room was simple but bright, with neat armchairs and framed family photographs on the wall. The television in the corner played festive Igbo highlife music softly. A small artificial Christmas tree stood on a table, decorated with tinsel. "It's good to be home," Soporu thought, feeling a warmth in her chest. Her younger brother, Obina, rushed out from the backyard as soon as he heard her voice. At 15, Obina was tall and gangly, all elbows and knees. He nearly knocked over a stool in his eagerness. "Big sis, you came with a big car this time," he laughed, eyes wide at the sight of her shiny vehicle outside. Soporu ruffled her hair playfully. "Yes, I did. You like it? Study hard and one day you will buy one for yourself," she teased. Obina grinned. "I prefer you just buy one for me when I get into university," he joked. The family burst into laughter. Soon, a few relatives and neighbors trickled in to welcome Soporu properly. Among them was her father's brother, Mazi Udoka. Mazi Udoka, Soporu's uncle, entered with a wide grin that showed a missing tooth on the side. "Ah, our city big madam is home," he announced in a booming voice. He gave her a hug that lasted a second too long, his hands patting her back. "Soporu, you are looking well, eh? The city is feeding you, eh? See how fresh you are," he said, though his eyes flickered over her designer handbag and the gold watch on her wrist. Soporu respectfully bowed her head and smiled. "Good evening, Uncle Udoka. It's good to see you." She had always been fond of her uncle, having grown up with him around. In fact, just last year, She had surprised him with a gift of a car to make his life easier. Mazi Udoka had thanked her profusely then, and Supuru believed he was proud of her success. Now, as he stood in her family's parlor praising her, she felt happy to have such supportive family. The living room filled with chatter and laughter. A pot of jollof rice simmered on the fire in the kitchen, and the delicious aroma wafted through the house. Soporu's mother insisted she sit and eat after the long journey. "You must be hungry. I made your favorite soup and pounded yam," Ngozi said, already heading to the kitchen to fix her a plate. Soporu's stomach rumbled at the mention of the meal. "Thank you, Mama. I haven't had good home cooking in months," she replied eagerly. As everyone settled in, the conversations flowed. Mazi Udoka regaled them with a funny story about a goat that wandered into the village market that morning, making everyone laugh. Soporu found herself relaxing fully, surrounded by the familiar voices and accents of home. She shared a few tales of city life, the traffic jams in Lagos that lasted hours, a humorous incident at her office's end-of-year party, which made even her quiet father chuckle and shake his head in amusement. Night fell gently over Ifite village. The family stepped outside after dinner to enjoy the cool Harmattan breeze. The sky was clear, sprinkled with stars. Soporu felt content. It was only her first day back, but she already felt the stress of city life melting away. Leaning on the railing of the veranda, she listened to the distant sounds of music and firecrackers from other compounds, celebrating the festive season. Villagers passed by and greeted her family with calls of "Merry Christmas" and "Welcome back, our daughter." Before going to bed, Soporu's mother came to her room to make sure she was comfortable. The room was small but cozy, with a mosquito net hanging over the bed. "Do you need anything else, my dear?" her mother asked, tucking the net around the mattress. "No, Mama, I'm fine, thank you," she replied, giving her a reassuring smile. As Soporu lay down to sleep, she felt happy and safe. She thought about the next few days, visiting old friends, attending the village church service on Christmas Day, and perhaps hosting a small party for the children with the gifts she brought. A smile lingered on her lips as she drifted off, blissfully unaware that this peaceful homecoming was about to take a dramatic turn.
For the first 2 days in Ifite, Soporu's life was filled with laughter and peace. On Christmas Eve, she visited old friends in the village, attended a lively church choir rehearsal with her mother, and even helped to organize a small party for neighborhood children. Everywhere Soporu went, people admired how well she had done in the city. She felt proud and happy, surrounded by love and holiday cheer. However, late on the second night, things took a strange turn. Soporu felt unusually tired after the day's activities. She went to bed early, thinking she had just exhausted herself with all the excitement. In the middle of the night, she awoke sweating and thirsty. Her body felt oddly light and her pajamas seemed looser than before. "Maybe I'm just imagining things," she mumbled to herself, blaming the fatigue. She drank some water and went back to sleep, unaware that a mysterious affliction was tightening its grip on her. By the morning of the third day, a shocking change had occurred. When Soporu's mother, Ngozi, came to wake her, she let out a loud gasp. "Soporu, get up! Come and look at yourself!" Ngozi's voice was high-pitched with alarm. Soporu sat up groggily, confused by her mother's tone. As she threw off the blanket, she realized her arms looked unusually thin. Startled, she stood and her knees wobbled. Her favorite skirt, which fit snugly just the day before, now hung loosely around her waist. Rushing to the mirror, Soporu's eyes widened in horror. She had lost so much weight overnight that she barely recognized herself. Her cheeks were hollow, her collarbones jutted out, and her once curvy figure had dwindled to skin and bones. "Mama, what is happening to me?" Soporu stammered, her hands trembling as she touched her gaunt face. By now, her father and brother had also come running into the room. Nnamdi stared at his daughter in disbelief. "This cannot be. Soporu, were you ill? How can this be you?" he asked, voice shaking. Obinna hovered near the door, eyes wide with fear, as if he were looking at a stranger. Soporu tried to take a step, but her legs felt like twigs. Weak and frightened, she burst into tears. "I don't know what's wrong. I feel fine, but look at me," she cried. Her mother wrapped a shawl around Soporu's shoulders,
Noticing how thin they were, Ngozi was on the verge of tears herself. "We need to get you to the hospital now," she declared. Within the hour, Soporu's family had rushed her to the nearest hospital in the neighboring town. The journey was a blur. Soporu sat in the back seat with her mother, a blanket around her though the weather was warm. She was shivering uncontrollably, not from cold but from terror. Nnamdi drove as fast as the bumpy rural road allowed, honking at goats and chickens to clear the way. At St. Mary's, Dr. Chike, a middle-aged doctor, examined Soporu thoroughly. He ran blood tests, checked her vitals, and asked a barrage of questions. All the while, Soporu sat on the examination table looking like a ghost of herself. Her clothes hung off her frame. Nurses whispered in the hallway, stunned by the young woman's sudden extreme weight loss. After what felt like an eternity, Dr. Chike called the family into his office. His expression was puzzled and grave. "I have never seen a case like this before," the doctor admitted, removing his glasses. "Medically, everything seems mostly normal. Her blood pressure is a bit low, but her blood tests show no infection, no malaria, nothing obvious." He shook his head slowly. "It's as if her body is just losing substance without explanation. We can't identify the cause." Soporu's mother wrung her hands nervously. "Doctor, what can we do? My daughter is disappearing in front of my eyes," she cried out. The doctor sighed. "All I can suggest is we admit her for observation and run more tests. Perhaps a specialist in the city might have an idea, but for now, we can put her on a drip for nourishment." Exhausted and desperate for answers, the family agreed to let Soporu stay overnight in the hospital. They hoped that by some miracle, the morning would bring improvement or at least a diagnosis. However, by the next day, Soporu had grown even thinner despite the IV fluids. Her arms looked like sticks, and her eyes seemed too large for her shrunken face. She could barely walk to the bathroom without help. The doctors were baffled and murmured among themselves in confusion. One young nurse was so startled by Soporu's skeletal appearance that she whispered to a colleague, "Could it be some kind of witchcraft?" Unfortunately, such whispers did not escape Ngozi's ears. Soporu's mother confronted the nurses angrily. "My daughter is not a witch. She is a good girl. Don't you dare say such a thing." But even as she defended her child, a seed of dread was planted in her own heart. What if this affliction was beyond the reach of medicine? Feeling helpless, the family decided to discharge Soporu from the hospital. Modern medicine had failed to find the cause, and the bill for tests was growing. They carefully helped Soporu back into the car. She was so frail now that Nnamdi carried her daughter as if she were a small child, astonished at how little she weighed. Tears glistened in his eyes, but he quickly blinked them away to stay strong for his family. Back in Ifite village, news of Soporu's mysterious illness had spread like wildfire. As the car pulled up to their home, neighbors peered from a distance, but none came forward to help. Fear and superstition had taken hold. A few women stood further down the road, whispering and pointing. One man muttered loudly, "I said it. No one becomes that rich so fast without consequences." Another woman, Mama Ozioma, recoiled when she saw Soporu's frail form being helped out of the car. "Don't go near her," Mama Ozioma warned others in a hushed tone. "Who knows if it's some curse or witchcraft? She might be a witch." Hearing these cruel whispers, Soporu's heart broke. She leaned heavily on her brother's arm, her vision blurred by tears. Never in her life had she felt so alone and humiliated. The villagers she grew up with, who yesterday were singing her praises, were now looking at her as if she were an outcast or a monster. Inside the house, her mother tried to console her. "Don't mind them, my daughter. They are just ignorant and afraid," Ngozi said softly, wiping Soporu's tears with the end of her wrapper. But Soporu could see the worry in her mother's face too. That evening, Soporu's family decided to try one more thing, consulting the local healer. In their culture, when modern medicine failed, people often turned to traditional remedies and spiritual insight. The village's renowned healer, an old man named Ozoimina, was known to have knowledge of herbs and the spiritual world. If anyone could understand this strange sickness, perhaps it was him. Nnamdi and Ngozi half carried, half walked Soporu to Ozoimina's compound, a short distance away. It was already dark, and oil lamps flickered in the healer's small shrine. The air smelt of burnt herbs and camphor. Ozoimina, wrapped in a faded red cloth, sat on a mat waiting for them, as if he already knew they were coming. He gestured for them to lay Soporu down on another mat. With beads rattling around his wrists, the healer began a series of chants and prayers in a low, rhythmic voice. He waved a bundle of dried leaves over Soporu's body from head to toe, muttering incantations. Soporu lay still, her breathing shallow, eyes closed, praying silently for any kind of relief. After several tense minutes, Uzoemena fell silent and closed his eyes, as if listening to something only he could hear. Finally, the old healer opened his eyes and shook his head sorrowfully. "This sickness is not ordinary," he said quietly, his voice raspy with age. "It is not something my herbs can cure. There is a dark shadow on her, something spiritual that I cannot see clearly." Ngozi began to sob softly, holding her daughter's limp hand. Nnamdi's shoulders sagged. "Please, Uzoemena, there must be something you can do," he pleaded. The healer only spread his palms helplessly. "I am sorry. This is beyond me. The person who cast this shadow is powerful, and they have hidden their identity from me. I fear I cannot find who is behind this." He handed them a small calabash containing a bitter herbal mixture. "Make her drink this. It will give her strength for a time, but it will not cure the cold." They thanked the healer and headed home in despair. Soporu tried to drink the dark green herbal potion once they returned, but it tasted foul. She gagged, spilling some on her chin. Obinna sniffed the bowl and made a face, thinking even a healthy person would hate to drink that. "This thing might kill me before the sickness does," Soporu joked weakly, managing a thin smile. Her brother forced a cough, happy to see even a glimmer of humor in her eyes. With great effort, Soporu swallowed a few more mouthfuls of the bitter mixture, then coughed. The potion did nothing to change her condition, though it did warm her stomach slightly. That night was the darkest of Soporu's life. Her body was so weak she could barely move in bed. Her family stayed by her side, fanning her and praying softly. Outside, the joyful sounds of Christmas celebrations had faded. Only the chirping of crickets and occasional distant drum beats could be heard. Soporu felt despair closing in. She had come home for a joyful holiday, but now she was living in nightmare. As tears rolled down her bony cheeks, Soporu whispered, "Why is this happening to me?" No one had an answer. Her mother could only shush her and stroke her head, though her own eyes were wet with tears. In a trembling voice, Soporu prayed aloud, "God, please help me. Don't let me die like this. Show us what to do." It was a simple, desperate plea. In the silence that followed, even as Soporu drifted into a troubled sleep, it seemed that no help was coming. The young woman's future looked as fragile as her body. Little did she know that the answer to her prayer was near, and the truth behind her illness was about to be revealed in the most unexpected way. 2 mornings later, Soporu mustered the little strength she had to take a short walk down the dusty village road. She felt cooped up and thought a bit of fresh air might clear her head. Her brother Obinna walked beside her attentively, ready to catch her if she stumbled. Soporu was still alarmingly thin, but she draped a shawl over her body to cover the worst of it. The villagers still eyed her from afar, and conversations would go hushed when she passed, but Soporu tried to ignore them. She focused on putting one foot in front of the other. As she neared a large fruit tree by the roadside, Soporu spotted a stranger approaching from the opposite direction. He was a tall, middle-aged man dressed in a simple white shirt and black trousers, carrying a well-worn Bible. His gentle face broke into a smile when he saw the frail young woman walking gingerly. "Good morning, my sister," he greeted, looking between Soporu and her brother. "How are you feeling today?" Soporu didn't recognize him as a local. Curious, she managed a polite smile. "Good morning, sir. I've been better, to be honest," she replied, her voice quiet and tired. There was something comforting about the man's presence. He introduced himself as Pastor Uche, a visiting preacher who had come to Ifite to minister at the invitation of the village church. Pastor Uche's eyes were kind but concerned as he observed Soporu's condition. By now, Soporu had stopped walking and Obinna stood protectively next to her. "I heard about a young woman in this village who fell sick mysteriously," the pastor said softly. "I'm guessing that must be you. What is your name, my dear?" "My name is Soporu," she answered, a glint of surprise in her eyes. The news of her illness had spread even to strangers, it seemed. She felt a flush of embarrassment, but Pastor Uche's smile was reassuring. "Soporu, God sees you and he hasn't forgotten you," he said. At those simple words, tears suddenly welled up in Soporu's eyes. For days she had felt abandoned and hopeless, as if even God had closed his eyes to her suffering. Hearing the pastor's compassionate tone melted something inside her. She quickly wiped her tears with a corner of her shawl. "Pastor, I've tried everything. The doctors, the healer, nothing is working. I don't want to die," she confessed, voice trembling. Pastor Uche gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "You will not die in Jesus' name," he said firmly. "May I pray for you, Soporu?" Soporu nodded, hopeful and desperate. "Yes, please. Pray for me, sir," she whispered. Right there by the roadside, under the shade of that tree, Pastor Uche began to pray fervently. He opened his Bible and read a short verse about God's healing power. Then he placed his hand lightly on Soporu's head. "Heavenly Father, I commit your daughter Soporu into your hands," he prayed, his voice steady and earnest. "Whatever is not of you in her life, let it be removed now in Jesus' name. I speak against every evil affliction troubling her." As the pastor prayed, a soft breeze rustled the leaves above. Soporu closed her eyes, tears escaping down her hollow cheeks. Obinna stood by, his head bowed. A couple of villagers across the road watched curiously. It was not every day one saw a prayer meeting in the middle of the street. Suddenly, Pastor Uche's voice grew louder, filled with authority. "Every curse, every evil attack on this young woman's life, I commanded to be broken right now," he declared. "Whoever you are, wherever you are, you cannot hide. The light of God exposes you." Soporu felt a strange warmth flow through her body at that moment. It started from the top of her head where the pastor's hand rested and moved down to her feet, as though a gentle fire were coursing through her veins. She let out a small gasp. It didn't hurt, it was comforting and invigorating. Pastor Uche continued, now almost shouting, not in anger but in passionate fervor. "I bind every spirit of infirmity in Jesus' name." He stamped his foot on the ground with each declaration, eyes closed in concentration. Soporu swayed slightly, and Obinna held her steady. Then, as quickly as it began, the pastor fell silent. He opened his eyes and looked directly at Soporu. His face was calm, but there was a new intensity in his gaze. "My dear, the Lord is revealing something," he said quietly. "There is someone who doesn't want to see you prosper. A member of your own family." Soporu's eyes widened. "My family? Who would do this to me?" she asked in disbelief. Her mind immediately went to her relatives. Most of them loved her, she thought, but the memory of her uncle's overlong hug and the way his eyes lingered at her when she arrived flashed in her mind. Pastor Uche took a deep breath. "It is your father's brother," he said solemnly. "I see a man, an uncle, who is filled with jealousy and anger at your success. He has done this to you." Obinna gasped. "Our uncle Mazi Udoka?" he blurted out, unable to contain his shock. Soporu's heart pounded. She felt a mix of confusion, hurt, and anger. Uncle Udoka, the same uncle she had respected and even gifted a car out of kindness? It seemed unthinkable. Yet, as Pastor Uche spoke, pieces of the puzzle clicked into place. She remembered how Mazi Udoka's smile never quite reached his eyes when he praised her, and the strange comment he made when she gave him the car, "Now you have everything, what will the rest of us do?" At the time, she thought it was a joke. Perhaps it wasn't. Tears flowed freely down Soporu's face. "I can't believe it. Why would he do this to me?" she cried softly. Pastor Uche squeezed her shoulder gently. "My dear, sometimes the hearts of men are consumed by envy. Your success might have provoked bitterness in him," he explained. "The important thing now is that God has exposed it. What the enemy meant for evil, God will turn to good." For a moment, Soporu could only sob, overwhelmed by the painful revelation. Obinna looked both angry and stunned, muttering, "I never liked the way he looked at her, but I never imagined this." Pastor Uche straightened up, lifting his Bible. "We will pray against his hold over you right now. Are you ready?" Soporu wiped her face and nodded, a spark of hope igniting in her heart now that she finally knew what she was fighting against. The pastor led them in another round of intense prayers. He asked Obinna to join, and together they formed a small circle. Under the morning sky, they prayed fervently in one voice. "Every power of darkness, release her in Jesus' name. Every evil from family, be broken now. We send this affliction back to the sender." At that final proclamation, Soporu felt a sudden surge, like a wave washing over her. She shivered and let out a cry, not of pain but of relief, as if invisible chains had snapped off her. She slumped into Obinna's arms, breathing hard. Pastor Uche quickly steadied her as well. He was smiling now, his forehead damp from the passionate prayer. "It is done," he said softly. "You are free, Soporu. The evil will return to where it came from." Though exhausted, Soporu felt a peace she hadn't had in days. The warm energy within her was still glowing, calming her mind. She believed the pastor's words. "Thank you. Thank you so much, Pastor," she said earnestly. Her brother echoed, "God bless you, sir." Pastor Uche walked them back towards their house, speaking words of faith. "Soporu, go home and give thanks to God. You will see His power. By His grace, you will be restored," he assured her. Before parting, he added, "And fear not, whoever did this will face the consequences of their deeds. Just keep trusting God." Soporu managed a faint smile. Though drained, her heart felt lighter than it had in a long time. Obinna helped her inside and immediately told her parents everything the pastor had revealed. Nnamdi and Ngozi were stunned and angered to learn that Mazi Udoka could be behind their daughter's suffering. Soporu's mother looked ready to storm over to her uncle's house to confront him, but Nnamdi held her back. "Not yet," he cautioned. "Let's thank God that we know the truth now. The pastor has prayed. Let's leave it in God's hands for now." That night, a fragile hope filled the air at Soporu's home. They prayed together as a family, thanking God and asking for Soporu's complete healing. Soporu managed to eat a little porridge, the first real food she had in days. As she prepared for bed, she felt calm and sure that the worst was over. The fear that had gripped her was gone, replaced by faith that she would survive this ordeal. Her body was still terribly weak, but as she lay down, she whispered, "I believe I will be okay." Ngozi sat by her bed humming a soothing hymn. Obinna slept on a mat nearby in case her sister needed anything in the night. Soon, Soporu drifted into a deep, peaceful sleep. Around midnight, the household was awakened by an eerie sound. Soporu's eyes flew open. From somewhere in the village came a blood-curdling scream. It pierced the silence of the night, startling birds from their roosts and sending a jolt of alarm through everyone who heard it. Soporu's father grabbed a flashlight and Obinna jumped to his feet. "What was that? Who is screaming?" Ngozi gasped, her hand over her heart. The scream echoed again, a howl of pain and terror. This time they could tell it was coming from the direction of Mazi Udoka's house. Soporu's heart began to race. She had a strong feeling she knew exactly who it was. Her father met her eyes in the dark, and they both knew something was happening to Uncle Udoka. The piercing screams from Mazi Udoka's house jolted the entire village awake. Neighbors who had shown Soporu hours before now peered out of their homes, drawn by the commotion. Some carried lanterns or flashlights, their shadows flickering against the walls of the simple houses. Soporu's family hurried through the cool night to Udoka's compound, hearts pounding with anxiety and grim anticipation. They arrived to a chaotic scene. Mazi Udoka, usually so proud and confident, was sprawled on the ground in front of his house. He writhed as if in agony, hands clawing at the air. His wife and children stood by helplessly, tears in their eyes, unsure how to help him. A small crowd gathered at a cautious distance, watching with a mix of fear and morbid curiosity. "Ah, it's burning me! Fire! Fire!" Mazi Udoka screamed. He rolled onto his side and then his back, as though trying to escape invisible flames. The villagers gasped. Some murmured prayers, others exchanged bewildered glances. Mama Ozioma, the same woman who had called Soporu a witch, now clutched her head in horror. "God in heaven, what is this?" she exclaimed, eyes wide. Soporu, leaning on her mother for support, watched in shock as her uncle thrashed on the ground. It was both terrifying and heartbreaking. She had always known him as a robust, energetic man. Now he looked small and broken. In the glow of lanterns, his face was twisted with pain and fear. Suddenly, Mazi Udoka stopped his frantic rolling and sat bolt upright. His eyes were wild and unfocused, staring at something unseen. He began to speak in a strained, booming voice. "I confess, I confess." The crowd pressed in a little closer, straining to hear. "It was me, I did it. I tried to destroy Soporu." A collective gasp rippled through the villagers. All eyes turned to Soporu, who was now trembling, not from physical weakness, but from the emotional weight of the moment. Nnamdi stepped forward, stunned. "Udoka, what are you saying?" he demanded. Udoka turned toward the sound of his brother's voice. In the dim light, tears streamed down his face. "Nnamdi, I am sorry," he wailed, his voice cracking. He dropped to his knees and began crawling towards Soporu's family. "I was blinded by jealousy. I could not stand seeing Soporu, a common girl, become so rich and successful," he cried out. His words poured forth in a desperate rush. "She had everything, a good job, money, respect, and I had nothing. I was envious. I went to a witch doctor. I cast a spell to make her lose everything, even her health. I wanted her to suffer." Horror and sorrow swept through the crowd. Some villagers recoiled, horrified that a man could harm his own kin out of envy. Mama Nkechi, the kindly neighbor, put a hand over her mouth, tears in her eyes. "Ah, see what jealousy can do," she lamented softly. Soporu felt the ground tilt beneath her. Hearing her uncle admit to cursing her was almost too much to bear. She clung to her mother's arm for support. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "Uncle, why? What did I ever do to you?" Mazi Udoka crawled closer, sobbing openly. "I'm sorry, Soporu. I'm so sorry," he cried. "You did nothing wrong. It was my own evil heart. You even bought me a car, and still I hated you for prospering while I struggled. I didn't deserve your kindness. I don't deserve to be called your uncle." He bowed his face to the dirt, pounding the ground with a fist. "Forgive me, please forgive me." Tears rolled down Soporu's face. She had never imagined that the threat to her life would be someone so close, someone she loved. This was the uncle who had bounced her on his knee as a child, whom she had tried to help when she found success, and he had repaid her with a curse. The pain of his betrayal cut deep. "Uncle Udoka, I trusted you. I respected you," she cried, voice breaking. "I gave you that car because I cared. Why would you repay good with evil?" Udoka lifted his head slightly, but he couldn't meet her eyes. "I have no excuse. Jealousy consumed me. I was wrong, so wrong," he moaned. He looked around at the ring of villagers. "All of you, hear me. Soporu is not a witch or a bad child. It was I, the wicked one. I caused her suffering because of my jealousy." He thumped his chest hard. "It is my fault." Some villagers shook their heads in disgust. Others quietly wiped their tears from their faces. Ngozi stepped forward, unable to contain her anguish. "Udoka, you nearly killed my child. What did she ever do except show you love?" Udoka crawled to Ngozi's feet, clutching the hem of her dress. "Ngozi, my sister, I cannot ask for forgiveness. I have done something terrible. I am sorry. I am so sorry," he wept. Nnamdi's face was streaked with tears, his emotions a storm of fury and hurt. "Udoka, you are my brother. We share the same blood. How could you let hatred poison you like this?" By now, Soporu was crying freely. The entire scene felt like a terrible dream. Part of her wanted to run, to escape this nightmare, but she also needed to hear every word. Summoning courage, Soporu took a shaky step forward. "Uncle," she said softly, "I pray God forgives you." It was all she could manage. Her heart was too heavy to say more, but in her soul, she truly hoped he would find mercy. Despite everything, she couldn't wish suffering on him. Udoka looked up at her from the ground. Her words, simple and sincere, seemed to break the last piece of his pride. "Thank you. Oh, thank you," he whispered, his face crumpling as fresh tears flowed. By this time, the mysterious force that had overtaken Udoka had subsided. His screams faded into quiet sobs. The villagers began to slip away, the night's extraordinary drama nearly at its end. Some left in silence, pondering the danger of envy. Others murmured prayers as they guided their families home. Soporu's father and another man carefully lifted Udoka from the ground and carried him inside. The once formidable man was limp and drained of strength. They laid him on his bed. He continued to mutter apologies until at last he fell into an exhausted sleep. Before leaving, Soporu stood in the doorway of her uncle's room, watching him sleep. He looked so frail and defeated, nothing like the vibrant uncle she once knew. Her anger had ebbed, leaving only sadness. "Good night, uncle," she whispered, even though he could not hear. Then she turned and allowed Obinna to help her back home. The night air was calm again, but nothing would ever quite be the same. Morning light brought shocking news. Mazi Udoka did not wake up. Sometime before dawn, he passed away quietly in his sleep. When word of his death rippled through the village, it was met with stunned silence. Many remembered his screams and confession only hours before and shuddered. Some said the evil he conjured had taken his life. Others believed it was God's judgment. Meanwhile, those who had called Sopuru a witch now hurried to make amends. Mama Ozioma was the first to arrive at Sopuru's home that morning, carrying a flask of hot pepper soup and bread. She knelt and begged for forgiveness, tears streaming down her cheeks. "My daughter, I am sorry for ever doubting you. Fear made us say terrible things," she sobbed. Sopuru, still weak but much better than before, reached out to raise the older woman to her feet. "It's all right, Mama," she said gently. "I hold no grudge. I know you are afraid." Ngozi stood by, nodding in agreement. They could understand how fear had clouded the village's judgment. In the following days, Sopuru recovered with astonishing speed. It was as if every prayer and good wish was restoring her body. Her appetite returned and strength flowed back into her limbs. Neighbors dropped by with fresh fruit and soup, delighted to see the healthy color returning to her face. By New Year's Eve, Sopuru could walk easily, and her figure was filling out once more. Ngozi could not stop smiling, fussing over her daughter and urging her to eat more. "You lost too much weight, my dear, but no more. You'll soon be chubby again," she would say, pressing another helping of food on Sopuru and laughing with relief. All too soon, the holiday drew to a close and it was time for Sopuru to return to the city. On New Year's Day, she packed her bags, pausing now and then as memories of the past week flooded her mind. This had been the most frightening Christmas of her life, but also one that taught her so much. She had faced the worst of human envy and survived, thanks to faith and the steadfast love of her family. When everything was loaded into the car, Sopuru's family and several neighbors gathered to see her off. There were warm handshakes, tight hugs, and even a few happy tears. Children who once ran from her now crowded around, eager to wave goodbye to Auntie Sopuru. Standing by the driver's door, Obinna puffed out his chest in a comic pose, as if he were her personal guard. "Next time you come home, better bring some real bodyguards," he teased, grinning. Sopuru laughed and tugged his ear. "You were the only bodyguard I needed, little brother. I'll be fine." Her mother wrapped her in a final embrace. "Stay safe, my daughter. God will continue to protect you," Ngozi whispered. Her father placed a hand on her shoulder, eyes shining. "We're proud of you, and we thank God for your life. Promise you'll visit again soon," he said softly. Sopuru nodded, wiping a tear from her eye. "I promise, Papa. I won't let this keep me away. I love you all so much." With one last wave and the chorus of "Safe Journey" ringing out from her family and friends, Sopuru started the car and drove off down the familiar dirt road. As Ifite village disappeared in her rearview mirror, the morning sun rose higher, brightening her path. Sopuru's heart was full of gratitude. She whispered a prayer of thanks for overcoming the evil that nearly destroyed her. This Christmas, she learned that even in the face of great darkness, goodness and faith will always overcome envy and evil in the end. Moral lesson. This story teaches that jealousy and envy can destroy even the closest family bonds and bring great harm, while kindness and hard work should never be repaid with evil. It shows that success can make some people angry instead of happy for you, but truth will always come out. In the end, goodness, patience, and faith overcome wicked plans, and those who choose evil often face the consequences of their own actions. Thank you for watching this story on Afrotales TV. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, leave us a comment, and share with family and friends. We have more beautiful stories coming your way, so subscribe and stay tuned. See you in the next one.